Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Tara. We talk about TV shows here. The year is 2022 and the name of the show is Babylon 5. This is season 5, episode 1. It is called No Compromises. So full spoilers for the episode, as always. So yeah, a lot to talk about this one because we have kind of the shaping of what this season is going to be. We got a big new character. We have several characters in new roles in this new alliance that has been formed. Sheridan, of course, is the president. Garibaldi's got a job title by the end of the episode. There's a lot going on. Plus, we got telepaths. We got this assassin. There's a whole lot happening in this first episode. What did you think of the season 5 premiere?
Well, I want to start with the opening credits because I think they're terrible. It tries to do like this mashup of like, here's what you need to catch up for season 5.
Yeah.
It sounds terrible.
It does this thing where it's like 22:50 and it shows you a couple of season 1 clips and then it goes to...
The dialogue's all like everywhere and there's no like theme I can hold on to. What is this?
I think I like visually what it's doing, but I agree the sound is a garbled mess, and even the new theme that comes in once it actually gets into just the rest of the titles when it's like doing the credits, I don't like as much. It's this kind of patriotic jingle kind of sounding thing, and I'm not that fond of it either. Also, no one's like it's 22:62. Is that what we're on now? 22:62? I think so. 58, 59, 60, 60. We don't get the catchphrase. I'm like, what are you doing to me, GMS? Although GMS does give himself a fancy new credit at the end. He's on like the back of the station. It's sort of, the camera comes round and it's like created by Michael Straczynski, and it's like,
and it has my favorite Minbari extra that's waving it around during the Minbari apocalypse.
So it's not all bad, is what we're saying.
It does make me smile. Yeah.
I think the first thing we have to talk about is the fact that season 5, we have to discuss the fact that the first character we see on screen is Bridge Boy.
He is Bridge Boy unleashed.
Ivanova's
not there.
I know, it's almost like he's got a promotion just by default. Even though we have a replacement technically for Ivanova, although the new lady Lockley, she is actually now the commander of Babylon 5. She's taken Sheridan's job technically, although you would assume that Ivanova would have taken that job had she still been around, because he's now the president of the alliance, so now we have someone else running the station itself, and that's what she is. So the opening of the episode is Bridge Boy kind of welcoming her and like sort of try to explain how the station is run, and she's a bit of a hard ass. She's like, oh, it's always this chaotic, that's a sign of a poorly run station, I'm going to fix that right away. So she's being all hard ass, but it was just, we didn't get a lot of Bridge Boy last season, so it was really funny to me to like open the season with him. Like he's the first person we see, and he's also the first person that the new main character gets to meet on the station. I just thought all that was very funny.
Welcome Ivanova replacement. Here is your Bridge Boy.
Bridge Boy's been passed down to a new lady.
I like the idea that he finally feels like he can move around the station and do more, only to get another Ivanova. I'll go back to my bridge.
He wasn't in uniform though. He had his like swag shirt on. He was looking quite confident. At least at the start of the conversation. By the end of the conversation, he felt like he was had his tail between his legs a little bit. But that's that's okay.
That's what we love about him.
So yeah, a lot to get into here. I guess we'll talk about Lockley first, and one of the things that's brought up with her as we sort of get to know her is the question of, and I didn't even think about it until Sheridan said it when he was talking to her, is she said it to him actually. You never asked me what side I was on in the Civil War that we just had, like, what side was on back on Earth, and he's like, yeah, I didn't. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting thing to drop in there. Is that something that's going to be like just sort of let to have us think about it? But it actually comes up more overtly later on when Garibaldi's not so keen to let that like just hang. He wants to poke at it, and even is kind of implying that maybe she's got something to do with the assassination attempt by the end of the episode. Because it is notable that when they're trying to talk Sheridan out of going ahead with this inauguration, that there's been a death threat, Lockley's the one that backs him up and says, nope, I believe in our capabilities, this should go ahead as planned. So if you're looking for like a breadcrumb trail that is suspicious, there is kind of one there to suggest that maybe she wanted the assassination to go through. And it's got that kind of like, she's probably on the other side, but she says it in this kind of vague way at the end where she's like, I was on the side of Earth. Like, and it's like, that sounds a bit suspicious, doesn't it? But yeah, so no, like,
was she on the side of just following orders, Earth?
Yes, or was she on the side of I'm going to take back Earth because I believe in Earth and we should be better than this? Yes. So what did you think of Lockley?
I mean, she has a strong start. I think she's a decent actress. She's just in a Claudia Christensen like replacement to me. She looks like her even, so she shows up and I'm interested in seeing the dynamic between her and Sheridan the most, probably because she's got this leadership role, and she addresses to him specifically like, but you're like the big overall guy here, so can I do my job if you're also going to be giving orders? And
it's worth mentioning that by the end of this episode, he's already overruled something she's decided.
Yeah, so we shall see.
Yeah, like by the end of the episode, he's already, because the telepath plot that we'll get to, he's already changed, like, which she said no, and at the end he's like, no, I've decided this comes under the president's orders, and I say yes, you can have Brown Sector.
Yeah, so I'm well, I don't know if she has seen Brown Sector, because that was like also one of the first areas that she goes to, so I would have said like, well, yeah, have you seen Brown Sector? Like, just let them have it.
Yeah, I don't like. Obviously, a telepath turned out to be friendly, but like, there's something suspicious about someone saying, "Meet me in the Brown Sector." Like, like, what's that? Say that again, buddy.
She doesn't know. She doesn't know any better.
Sounds like a proposition, to be honest, and I'm not sure I'm into it. So. Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, obviously the one big difference though is this idea that she might have been fighting on Clark's side during the war, and that's obviously something we couldn't have done with Ivanovich, so there's an intrigue there. There's a potential arc here where maybe she'll come to appreciate what everyone in this station does and maybe see a new perspective on things, assuming she was on the opposing side.
Garibaldi gets to be antagonistic towards the new captain on board, which is, I guess, a trend at this point for him.
It's his favorite. I mean, he's cozy with Sheridan, and he does say at one point because he's basically like backseat driving Zach like throughout the episode, because like Zach's meant to be taking care of the security, and he's like, "No, Zach, you gotta listen to me. I know this station better than anyone." He's like, "Chief, I've got this. All right.
Yeah.
I'm head security officer. I know what I'm doing."
I love seeing Zach Allen here again, and it is nice to see him and Garibaldi interact, because last time we saw them together, it wasn't so nice, and this also shows us like how far Zach's come since Garibaldi left him in charge, basically, him being ready at any moment to give his position back over to Garibaldi, and now he's like, no, I got this. I know what I'm doing. You trusted me, and you were right to trust me. Yeah. And us as an audience, we trust him too.
And I like that effectively, from a, maybe this, you could call it a cop-out almost, but I do kind of like that his new position effectively lets him also still be security chief, just on a different level. So Zach still gets to be security chief of the station, but he's the one investigating more things that are tied to Sheridan. So, what was it? Covert intelligence, I think was the new division that he's the head of now.
He's the president's... the president's personal private investigator.
Secret Service, maybe we call him.
Sure.
Is he kind of that? I don't know. So that was it. I like their interaction at the end, though. The idea that Garibaldi's like not just going to like assume that the new captain is going to be on the up and up and play ball with everyone else is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's kind of familiar, but that's okay.
And speaking of people being nice, Jakar and Londo are on team with everyone, which makes sense given the alliance that's just formed that they're both their cultures are a part of. There's a great couple of scenes with Jakar where Sheridan comes to Jakar and asks him, "Look, well, you've got some of the speech, and this is true. Like this is what's so good about this moment is that this is actually accurate. We praise Jakar's
know.
speeches
Yeah.
when he gave emotional speeches about Narn and Centauri and the war back in like season 2 and 3 and whatever else. We praised them. And so him coming and saying, "Hey, your speeches moved me to tears almost. Like you should write the inauguration speech." And he's like, "Look, I will take this great honor, and I will I will be in mortal combat with the words." I think was one of the things he said. But the poor Jakar, the death threats or the assassination attempts keep getting in the way. So he eventually just kind of like, "Do you want to be president? Yeah, put your hand on the book and say I do." All right, that's it. It was funny. Like it's kind of nice that. I like in theory, and I'll see if they do a lot more of this, but when they do have this meeting after the death threat's been given, I like that Londo and Jakar are both in the meeting as like part of the team, right? Like we're all here to work together kind of thing. Like, I was like, oh, this is a kind of an interesting dynamic. I mean, obviously there's the potential that we don't have enough big conflict going on this season, potentially, because everyone is like a happy family, which is probably why they chose to have this new character be possibly antagonistic, because everyone else is kind of in a good place with each other, by and large. So, makes sense.
It's kind of a thankless role for her to come in and be antagonistic towards the people that are heroes and the people we've been following for 4 years, and she only has one season for an arc. Yeah,
but they always knew this would only be one season because
yes, we found that out.
Yeah. Well, no, I think I knew that anyway. Like I know someone said in the comments in the last thing, but like I'm pretty sure the idea was always just to have one last season. I don't think TNT were ever going to try and milk it for years and be like, oh, let's do a 6 and a 7, like let's just keep going, kind of thing.
It's weird. It's weird to invest money in something and be like, one season only.
Well, I think it's because they were trying to like build up TNT's like an original programming channel with this, and they were trying to like grab all the B5 audience and bring them over and hopefully establish a new audience. Because I think they wanted to do spin-offs, and obviously they'd already commissioned the TV movies and stuff like that, so.
They did do a spin-off.
That was a fair bit later, though, relatively speaking. But, there's a couple of bits with Londo. He's not got a lot in this episode, but there's a couple of fun moments. There's a joke about him wanting to be naked or something, and Sheridan showing his display of fear of that prospect. Delenn and Sheridan are swapping between quarters because, well, she feels that all the Minbari ambassador business should still be handled in a Minbari space. I mean, she could still just live with Sheridan and just work there.
Can't she just have an office?
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, she doesn't even have to move. Like, she could just sort of, like, her old quarters could become the office and just, but whatever. But, I mean, they kind of set up the end game here where they're already like, oh, the headquarters for this alliance is going to be on Minbar, and that's where Sheridan's going to move with her after the season's done. So it's like, okay, so this is an end game, and it kind of further reestablishes to the audience, I think, that this is the last season. We're just doing one last year of setting up this future, and this is where we're leaving off. So that's cool enough. As far as the actual plots of the episode go, obviously we have the assassination attempts. There's some things I like about this. There's some things that were just kind of okay. I
didn't really like this stuff.
I like parts of it. I like the idea that a telepath like sees what he's going to do. Admittedly, the telepath in question, I did think his acting was a bit weird because, like, see when they first introduced all the telepaths, and like here's this young one who doesn't speak. Like, I thought he had this creepy.
We call him our special guy.
I thought he was creepy, right? I thought he was being creepy, like, and especially since he shows Lockley like flowers in her head, and the long-haired guy who's very stern and never smiles for some reason says, "Oh, I think he likes you," and I'm like, could you say that any creepier?
His whole introduction to like all the people I thought was hilarious. I don't know. Like, here's Sarah, beautiful and fair. Okay. Here's William. Not a great guy, but if you get to know him, he's okay.
It starts off with him
funny.
Watching from a distance.
The two women are like closer than sisters, and they kind of like touch each other. Like, whoa, what is this group?
They're refugee telepaths, but also maybe some sort of weird sex cult. Like maybe a bit of both.
Yeah, that Fabio is the leader of.
Yeah, he's very intense, and he's always, the first time you see him, he's like sort of watching Lockley from a distance, and he steps out, and I'm like, oh, maybe he's a villain. And he's not. Obviously, the villain of the episode is the assassin, who's this sort of devout guy who served under Clark. He wants to assassinate Sheridan. I did like his plan involved, like stealing like the gas mask stuff from from the alien species that has that naturally. So it's like a good disguise. He's like, oh, that's quite smart. He sneaks in, looking like the alien.
What do you think of the music box?
Oh, yeah. I mean, no. Yeah, the opening scene where he's like killing the ranger and he's got the music box. Like, yeah, that's not.
It's just like, here's a thing that can be creepy, so we're just going to throw this in here, but it has no purpose.
It has no purpose. I will say one detail I liked is the ranger saying, "I live for the one, I die for the one." It was nice to hear that again and just say, like, oh yeah, rangers actually say that.
Yeah, I forgot about that too.
Yeah. Of course, sometimes we have guest stars on this show that are a little ropey, and when he turns around and goes, oh, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. Blast.
Honestly, his performance to me was fine. It's just, I thought that his actual character was a little bit lame. Like I don't hate the idea that he is somebody who worked for Clark and he's got this like agenda to kill the president and stuff like that, because because of Sheridan, like his whole world has collapsed. But I just think like all the little character details with him are just not very good.
Trying too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it. I had more of a problem with the young even though I like conceptually the idea that a telepath who doesn't speak sees this. Although I didn't need him to actually yell out no. Like the first word he ever says is no, because he's trying to save Sheridan's life. I thought what he does after that, where he just projects what he saw into everyone's heads, I thought that was enough. Like, just do that, and they can all see what this guy's about to do, and they can intervene then. It was a bit cheesy that he actually yelled out no. I was like, who
does he think he is, Caesar?
You've just told me that he's never spoken, or at least as far as anyone who knows him now has ever heard. He's never spoken since this traumatic incident in his past. So I felt a bit cheesy that they spoke. I did like the idea that he's a second attempt is actually just he steals one of the fighters and is just like outside the window. He's like, yeah, I'm coming for you.
Do they have blast shields, or is that just on the bridge or the CNC?
I think they do, but I think the idea is that it takes take a bit of time to shut. So if they started shutting them, you just shoot immediately and hope for the best. Because I will say I didn't really, because I wasn't so much into the character per se. I did like them bringing up this idea that it's easy to stop people trying to intervene in an event, but if there's someone who's willing to die for what they're about to do, like as long as they can get close enough to take the shot and then they're happy to die while they're doing it, that's actually a lot harder to protect against, because they are kind of this like
the lone gunman with an agenda.
Yeah, so I kind of like them using that as a plot device. I thought that was entertaining enough. But I agree that the plots of this episode are the weaker parts of it. It's just where the characters are now and what we're doing going forward. And
I like all the introductions. This woman is she has enough of Ivanova there that I'm probably still going to end up missing Ivanova throughout the whole thing, because I'll be like, this probably should have been her.
Sure. I think it might be setting us up for what I imagine a good chunk of the season might feel like, which is where we're going to enjoy the characters, we're going to enjoy them working together, but maybe because we have went through a lot of the plots already and they don't have as much meat to actually give them this season, we might not enjoy the stories as much, and that's okay. Like I can get through that.
I like the new telepaths that like they can project themselves, so you're not quite sure if they're there or not. And also the image of like when Fabio shows up to Lockley and she's
Byron. His name is Byron, just for anyone who just keeps getting confused by Fabio.
I don't think anybody is confused.
It's Byron, okay? It's
Byron.
Byron, whatever.
Byron appears to...
I'll speak how I like women, alright?
When he appears to Lockley and the first time we meet him, and then he like makes all the sound go away, I thought that was kind of spooky and cool.
Yeah, they also Batman out the scene with Franklin. Like
that made me go like, okay, so did they have the ability to distract him enough to get away, or were they not there?
They
Was
must
it all
have
projection?
the kid must have been there because he was scanning them in the chair and getting readings, so he must have been there. But yeah, he turns around. So I assume that they just like my what I think is that they were all still technically in the room. They were just like maybe a few steps away, but they're just making him see none of them. Like they're just erasing them from his mind. So it's like they've disappeared, but they're actually like just casually walking out the door.
Well, yeah, and you know, Sheridan brings up the point that we're probably going to go head to head with Bester and his peeps. So
It's the one big plot
it's good
thread.
to have some telepaths on our side.
It's the one big plot thread I can see they've still got to really chew on, I think, for this season. So yeah, no Leah this episode. She's still in the opening title. She's still a regular, but she's not
I
in this
checked
episode.
because I just wanted to make sure. I'm like, she's not in season 5, right?
Nah, she's going to be around, but she's just not in this. And I mean, it's not the only one. Lanier's not here either, but you know,
yeah,
Lanier shows up more reliably. Leah, we felt sometimes would just disappear for stretches. So
yeah.
although no one's ever quite hit the same rate as was it Natoth, Jakar's assistant? In season
he doesn't
1.
have an assistant anymore.
Oh no, he's done for a long time, but like once upon a time he was supposed to.
Right.
And you know, didn't show up that often for whatever reason.
Well, he insults their religion, I guess. Or no, they were not religious. He is religious.
That was another bit of mythology, actually. It talks about how, like, he picked the name Jakar. Like, it's not until he picked what religious kind of, like, what Narn religion he wanted to pursue where he picked his own name. Because that's who he really always has been. And that's what he's saying to Sheridan. He's saying, maybe this idea of Mr. President, maybe that's who you always were. And you've only just achieved the title now.
Yeah. He talks about the book Joquan again, the book of Joquan.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea, this idea that, like, you are who you are, and you're always going to be that. So it brings in a little bit of, fate or, like, predestination or whatever else. And or alternatively, you could argue it's just a sort of side of, no, he is who he is because that's who he is. And, like, you can misinterpret it as fate. You know? It's not a coincidence he became this. He's this because this is him.
Yep.
That was probably the most awkward way I could have said to explain any of that, but it made sense in my head, damn it.
I'm following. Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Good. So, yeah, I thought it was a solid first episode. Admittedly, it's kind of that thing where there's been very mixed opinions and people saying, oh, season 5's not as good. Season 5 is a little bit different because they'd kind of wrapped up all most of the main plot lines they had beforehand. And I would say I feel a strong attempt in this to set up a new status quo where there's definitely some story to mine from it. It's just a case of, you know, will it ever reach the heights of previous years? I mean, even from people who like it, like, the implication is it won't from other opinions, but I'm down to find out. I'm down to see what I think of its experimental season.
Yeah.
If we want to call it that.
It's epilogue season, I guess.
Yeah, epilogue season. There you go. You can call it that. That works.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Did you... I guess one fail I'd ask you is, did you enjoy just the living together of Delenn and Sheridan and the small talk about the socks in the shower and things like that?
Yeah, it's cute. I mean, they're both good actors, so I enjoy their back and forth, even if it's it's just some story about his squad leader or whatever when he was in the army on North American forces, whatever his station was.
This was a little distracting to me because he said he's like superior officer. They called him Sergeant Slaughter, but that was distracting because that's a wrestler. And
it is.
It's a wrestler that existed when this came out. Like, Sergeant Slaughter's from like the 80s and early 90s. So,
well, I mean, this is a couple centuries after that, so maybe.
I mean, from the perspective of the writers, not the characters on the show.
Maybe they're big fans of ancient wrestling.
No one's a fan of Sergeant Slaughter. He was not good.
I mean, yeah, whatever, they're living together now, so she's got to learn about all his little quirks. I guess She didn't get them all in the 3 nights of sleeping together.
I mean, to put it in perspective, they had to move an event, their biggest event of the year. They had to move from a stadium which was going to hold like 80,000 people to a small arena that held 15,000 because they couldn't sell enough tickets because Sergeant Slaughter, as they call it in the business, wasn't a draw. So
I see.
So
I did read in the trivia that TNT said that they're not going to like give them as much money to do what they need to do. So like even like filming schedules were shorter and stuff to cut costs. And that it's a notable dip in quality for this season. Didn't notice in this episode at all.
I didn't notice in this episode. I will say that probably means almost every episode, much like season 1, is probably going to be set on the station and the sets they already have, rather than being set anywhere else. So that would be my guess.
I mean, even the special effects looked fine when like the guy was flying outside of the window.
Yeah, I mean, I think the benefit is if they've already got the models for the ships and stuff and the computers and I think if they've already done them, like they get to like use them again. So there's a bit of a shortcut there with that, but yeah, we'll see. I'll be curious to see if we can feel the dip in budget as time goes on. Do we feel them just shooting in hallways a lot or whatever? But we'll find out.
I don't know. I couldn't tell from this episode. Because
I've noticed that in other shows, there was the final season or 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. No, it was season 5 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they kind of like wrote the season around the idea that they were in this big building for most of the season in various forms or another. So there was a lot of stuff in hallways and rooms. And it was noticeable in that show to an extent because that was a show that always like went to all these different locations. They were constantly flying to different towns, cities, countries, whatever. So there was always a variety of outdoor shooting locations. So all of a sudden a season didn't have that, and it was like, oh, this feels like you're really cutting back on budget here.
Right.
So I don't know if it'll be as noticeable in this. As long as they still have the station, which is where, because so much of the show for the first like 3 seasons was almost entirely on the station anyway, that I don't think it's going to feel that weird, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, seeing what the differences are, and even if this season's not as good, I like the characters, and the ones that I didn't like are gone.
You say ones plural as if there's
Poochie's
multiple.
Gone and
Poochie's been gone since season 2.
There's no Poochie replacement. I don't hate our mysterious Byron so far. I looked him up. He's like a pretty notable voice actor.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of cartoons and animated series.
Yeah, and video games.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's good. So yeah, and obviously Tracy Scoggins, who plays Lockley, most people probably recognize her from Lois and Clark, the new Adventures of Superman. You may also recognize her from Demonic Toys is the name of it, which is the same company that did Puppet Master and movies like that, filming films.
That sounds good.
That's the 2 things I know her from. So Lois and Clark being the main one, but
I don't know her from anything then. I mean, I have seen some episodes of Lois and Clark, but I've never sat down and watched them.
Yeah, she was only in season 1 for whatever reason. They removed her character for season 2, and I'm not really sure why, but I guess they thought she wasn't working for whatever reason. Maybe
her and who played Lois?
Terry Hatcher.
Yeah, maybe her and Terry Hatcher just
didn't get along, you think?
Yeah. They're both so beautiful, so there could only be one great beauty on the show.
Thank you very much for joining us for Babylon 5, everyone. Let us know what you thought of the season 5 premiere in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for the notifications. Tara, tell them all about Patreon.
That's right, Peter. If you guys enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MildFuzzTV, where if you donate as low as $1 per month, you'll get access to bonus episodes for other shows that we do. And if you donate $5 per month, you'll get access to these Babylon 5 reviews 6 days early. You could be ahead of the game. Leave us the comments first, and we love it. Thank you.
Yeah. You can also hit the super thanks button under the video. Get us on Twitter at @mail_fuzz for channel updates, but otherwise that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Babylon 5. Just Don't give away the homeworld.